Kuzangpa, a very warm welcome to Bhutan This Week. My name is Samtin Dolkar. Our top stories this week. Everyone in Chuka to be tested as Phinsiling sees rapid rise in COVID-19 positive cases. Paro excludes high-risk areas amid implementation of movement card system. And government eases lockdown restrictions in rural areas. Now the news in detail. With 26 new cases detected from Phinsiling in between 26th and 27th August, the health minister announced that everyone in Chuka district would be tested. As cases rapidly rise, core Phinsiling town has been put in stringent lockdown. Except for essentials, all movement of vehicles to and from Phinsiling is stopped till 29th August.
Phinsiling now has 32 community transmission cases detected through the active community surveillance which completed on Monday. According to the health minister, all 27,134 samples from Phinsiling have been tested.
Nimrerelu halam tonta sum pa malamchi lege chamitsubese shuni die kamsochin chare test chaptalu kanta durure goila kanta durure godalu ta hane bodalu ta nimchilu shara maniawa chapda te tonta sum dechi chapsubela ta hane bodalu te tatusense be meeting ajegi halam tari le judu daunse shunila khara thembochilu ta dari chugu themi dile toroda chugugi dewa yumi mingomdi khara. The
minister said people should not get complacent thinking they have tested negative to the virus, since it takes 2 to 3 days for the virus to be detected if a person has newly contracted the virus.
Mi mashu chigi nga che test chap chi soda davenda ngadi nyebubdi minu se anebe jome themme se shunila debe me se shunila tato gi duswe dinalu nyebub mi bigi debolu ta nga chegi lab mi gi lab jadi lalen mathab be wachin digi naba te nagi bagdigi be rangi sasana ke ni gi nyang kha yu se shunila ta lalu gi di testing chap chi da minu se no venam se millo ani gu tek digi be jome jakse dula.
Phinsiling has been divided into 5 clusters. According to the health minister, most cases are from the core town and the school area. Security and lockdown regulations in these clusters have been tightened. The health minister added that lockdown is the best intervention to contain the virus.
Tangache dodol kadang beyu kanle mingom peni di atsi nyungta be deung bala ane bodalu ta tinale dodol kadang beyu chamchi gi nebub di methop se membala ta di chawara ngache soil hankalu takshe benigi kokap angani dila kamsojin de chibe dodol kakdam mabewabe takshebe ko bachinte kate phe anyola yukte chinalu.
Except for children under 14, the entire population in Phinsiling have been tested. Meanwhile, in Thimphu and Paro, 7,000 people, including 2,000 in Paro, were tested as of yesterday. Sharab Doji, BBS News.
In the first week of the nationwide lockdown, mobile banking transactions crossed over 1 billion item with the average daily transaction of 154 million item. According to Royal Monetary Authority, more than 5,000 account holders with various banks have registered for mobile banking during that time.
During the lockdown till 17th August, mobile banking recorded more than 1.3 million numbers of transactions. Quick Response or QR scan code saw more than 8,000 transactions amounting to 15.7 million UTM. Under e-wallet, Binual had transactions of more than 0.5 million UTM, while e-through recorded 3.9 million UTM. ATMs saw nearly 11,000 transactions amounting to 36 million UTM. Bhutanese made 775 transactions amounting to 120 million UTM through global interchange for financial transaction or gift. Royal Monetary Authority and financial service providers also increased the transaction amount to 200,000 UTM from 100,000 UTM per day on mobile banking. Sangichizom for BBS News.
The management of Punachangchu 1 and 2 hydroelectric project authorities will submit a proposal to the Economic Affairs Ministry to resume critical construction works at the project sites. Today, due to the nationwide lockdown, major works in the two projects have come to a standstill.
The project sites, otherwise astir with deafening activities, are usually silent these days. With approval from the COVID-19 task force of Bhutan, only emergency and essential works such as concrete curing, dewatering from underground project structures, maintenance of electricity and illumination, and water supply are carried out. According to the managing director of PHPA-1, the suspension of works during the lockdown will not have any major adverse impact on the overall completion of the project.
As on date, there are slippages in the day-to-day activities on the ongoing work fronts, which can be recovered once the normal life is returned both in Bhutan and world over. We are hopeful that we will return back to normal life soon. We should be able to retrieve the slippages on account of COVID-19 pandemic once the situation becomes normal by pursuing various measures.
Similarly, the management of PHPA-2 believes the lockdown will not affect the overall progress of the project. They are, however, preparing a detailed way-forward plan in case the lockdown extends. Despite no major negative impacts, the management of both the projects are looking forward to resuming the critical works. Recently, the hydropower projects in the country that are under construction had a virtual meeting with the Economic Affairs Ministry regarding the possibilities of reopening critical works of the projects.
It was decided that the project management will submit their proposal to resume the works in critical work fronts in self-contained mode to concerned authorities for their consideration. It was also decided that sample testing will be carried out by the health officials of the workmen at site so as to ensure that the manpower deployed are working in a COVID-free environment.
The managing director added, for now, transportation of construction materials have come to a halt as well. However, if the approval is granted to resume normal works, PHPA-1 has the materials in stock. At the same time, for PHPA-2, a consignment containing urgently required materials and 10 truckloads of other construction materials reached Jigon and are waiting for customs clearances and other permits.
Under the leadership of Truk Kelpo and blessing from J. Campo, we are very hopeful that prevailing conditions will improve and lockdown will be lifted very soon, enabling us to work normally as in the past.
As of July this year, both PHPA 1 and 2 achieved over 85% of the overall construction works. For Chenga Doji in Wandifodam, Samtin Dolkar, BBS News.
The distribution of movement cards in Poro is complete. However, as of now, the cards are issued only to those living in places demarcated as buffer zone. Movement is still restricted in the super zone since the high-risk areas fall within this zone. Poro is divided into 3 zones, namely super zone, buffer zone, and Gyog zone.
The super zone comprises some towns including the district's main town, and Chang Mendi, Bonde and Wochu fall in this zone. These places were identified as high-risk areas after Poro reported COVID-19 positive cases outside a quarantine facility recently. The residents in this zone will have to continue relying on home delivery services for essential items.
The Konragi Chiok Nalu Chamji Junimato, the Jemigi Chiok Nalu Jumichose, the Devodolu Konragi Shinreyu, the Lari Bewachin di Jucho, the Lake Konragi no Semcheri watching the Suyatan Chosishuni, the Vodolu Ching Acheregi and the buffer zone have the Lalu Songa Minuala, the Songa Miwachin, the Songa Minus, Shemina Jumicho Shunila, as in Yanka Iblet in the Konludi Acheregina, Tunkitemigi essential items and the Temimola, Russian Disutemigi Garidusi, Disulu Kongi. On
the other hand, the households falling with the buffer zone can start using their movement cards from tomorrow. As they received the cards, they were briefed on its use. Those areas sharing the border with Super Zone are categorized as buffer zone, and there are 12 buffer zones identified in Paro.
톰기디 냥카치 사고치 맨세미디 가치기 디니 비미수슈니 공소에게 카톨레디 냥카 밑베 텐도와진 또 슝기베디 냥카민도 다테르 케미스요 데베 나와진 데레짬치 테니 있으슈니.
People welcome the movement card system as it comes as a breather amid the lockdown restrictions.
Ngachigi area dita ya na kachila dewachingi ulisuso jushoba wala so ya lu anibe sa chunguchi wala ya apang na lu labi anibe jusub ni mesnobe ya tab atsidini mesnomen
la satungi rida antu de khairu gari lamkhala akemi dula kachira goru domada anim goru ge labbe order be da ku yara ma jushogala na gari ka be ngacha max tu be anibe lemila tani ka digi de ngacha yadama atire Kochape 1 hour ganta riri Kochape Zulujong be te atire lusire du fresh air nimbebe adama ki nimbebe andi fentoni bela kim nonde de desa boda omni ati demisu bela.
Meanwhile, 9 geoks in the district located far from super and buffer zones are categorized under the geok zone. The zone is also considered as a safe zone as per the zoning guidelines. People in this area are allowed to move within their respective geok without a movement card, and shops are allowed to remain open. For Namgyongchu in Paro, this is Pasang Doji for BBS News.
Most residents of Bhutan town welcomed the movement card system, but some said it would be better for them if more shops could be opened in places like Jalikar Gonkar zone. Meanwhile, the LPG cylinder distribution in Chamkar was quite chaotic, with around 100 people going home empty-handed.
More than 220 movement cards were issued for Jalikar Konkar zone. Today, permits were issued for people in Kurje and Jambelaga area. 2 shops are opened in each zone.
We are glad we got the moment card today because it takes a lot of time when we order goods from Chamkar. For instance, it takes about 3 days for LPG cylinder delivery. But with the shops opened nearby, we can get most of the essential items.
But all is not well. Some people in Karnita and Konkar, who are located about a kilometer away from 2 shops in Jalikar, are not so happy with the arrangement.
The shops are located very far from here. It is difficult for us to carry heavy groceries here from the shop. It would be good for the people if another shop is opened nearby.
As the shop is at Jalikar, it takes about an hour for the round trip. It takes a lot of time when we have to carry all the goods on our back.
As all the people have to go to Jalikar for shopping, maintaining social distancing would become an issue. I think it would be beneficial if there are shops opened in scattered places.
Punta Chonda said the shops were chosen as they are centrally located and there are no immediate plans to open shops elsewhere.
We issued the cards to benefit the entire population. People who find the arrangement inconvenient can opt to make their orders with the retailers in Chamkar. We even issued vehicle movement authorization to 5 shopkeepers. Otherwise, we're making sure all essentials are available in the zones.
Meanwhile, during the gas cylinder distribution today, many people returned home unhappy. A distribution schedule was issued yesterday. However, cylinders were enough only for a few pockets of Bhutan town. People in Chamkar town waited for more than 3 hours only to return home empty-handed.
I think the schedule was made without checking the number of the cylinders available at the depot. The distribution was little disorganized. I informed the people to get their cylinders as per the schedule received from the task force.
Punta Zona said they have ordered another truckload of gas cylinders from Gelifu.
We didn't expect this many people to come for cylinders. However, we will take this as a lesson and make a list of households in need of cylinders and will issue them as per the list. However, in the next 2 to 3 days, another truckload of cylinders will arrive.
He also said the next trip of cylinders will be distributed to the ones who didn't get today. Kipchu, BBS News, Pumthang.
Despite Tirang experiencing shortage of poultry feed, the district's capacity to produce eggs remains unaffected. Poultry farmers continue to meet the local demand and beyond. And during this period of lockdown, the district is supplying surplus eggs to Bhutan Livestock Development Corporation, BLDC.
A bolero loaded with eggs from Semjong Gyeok just arrived at the collection center, the district veterinary hospital. Despite the rain, livestock officials get busy unloading the consignment, which will be later sent to BLDC in Thimphu. Since the lockdown was imposed, the district livestock sector supplied over 1,700 cartons of eggs to the corporation. It still has 200 cartons of eggs in stock.
We have livestock officials in every Gyeok. They sought help from Gyeok administrations and are collecting surplus eggs from farmers. We hope the Gyeok administrations will continue to render support for our farmers' benefit.
Likewise, Tsirang Poultry Cooperative collects surplus eggs from its members in 11 Gyeoks. But this time, the cooperative is gathering eggs from non-members as well.
Poultry farmers here depend on eggs for sustenance, and so the cooperative is also collecting eggs from non-members to keep the supply in the market going. We sent eggs to Bhutan Livestock Development Corporation with support from the Livestock Department. We are grateful for the support.
The district livestock sector is also stockpiling and supplying surplus of other livestock products outside. In the last 2 weeks, it delivered over 9,200 cheese balls and 112 kilograms of butter to BLDC and Punakha. Soon, additional 1,800 cheese balls and 68 kilograms of butter will be supplied to the corporation. Meanwhile, to the relief of many poultry farmers, a few trucks carrying poultry feed reached Tsirang yesterday. This is expected to resolve the feed shortage the farmers were facing of late. For Pema Cheong in Tsirang, Solomongdi, PBS News.
With the lockdown restrictions eased across the country, farmers are now back to their fields, farming and tending their livestock. On 21st August, the government announced that upon looking at the situations, they decided to allow movement of individuals within the Gyeok.
With no positive cases outside Paro and Phinsuling, the government relaxed its lockdown rules. The shops were allowed to open and people were allowed to move in the Gyeoks.
The Misekaragi Gyeognalu, Ranasagi, Gyeognalu Jushina, Gyeog Chinale Chika Machima Beshimna, Rangi Gyeogi Nanaludi, the Kara Atazumbera Labini, Gutsudore Matumino Sishunivina, Kori Zonkagi, Leju Sokchunda, the Konle Jugdibe, the Gyeogi Sanigotipsule, Kara Lushua Pishimda, the Nabli Gusundi, Ranasagi Gyeogi Nankenalu Atagi Labini, Gutsudaru Tube Sishunivina, Tanibu, the Sanamgi Labini. 대 텔랭아처리기 노촌이 대 차만날레 다카치라 투니베레 대다 투두니베레 가라 구츠라로 또 없으슈니다.
In Pumthang, 36-year-old Wanchu is operating his power tiller for the very first time today since the lockdown was imposed. He is sowing turnip with his family. He says the easing of movement restrictions in the Gyeok has come as a huge relief to the farmers.
With some of the restrictions lifted in the Gyeoks, it has become quite convenient for the farmers as we have to do harvesting and sowing on time. However, when the lockdown was first announced, we were worried about our livelihoods as most of us depend on farming, which mostly involves going out in the fields.
At Thangbi, Dicheomo opens her shop for the first time in 12 days. There are not many customers, but she's happy that she can finally offload her grocery stock bit by bit.
I feel free today after being confined to home for so long. I think it would be okay if restrictions are kept a little lighter in remote Gyeoks like ours, if at all lockdown happens in future as well, because the entrance of our Gyeok is guarded by desops and no outsiders can come in.
With most of the harvesting works already over, Chukur is a quiet place even if the lockdown restrictions have been eased. However, with the movement of vehicles from Gyeok to Gyeok still restricted, farmers are worried if they would be able to sell their potatoes on time.
We have already packed our potatoes to be transported to the temporary FCB auction yard at Chumi. However, all our plans got cancelled due to the lockdown. We have now emptied all the sacks and we are really worried that our harvest would rot if lockdown is not lifted soon.
Almost 80% of the people in Kharsa Tambichuk depend on potato as our main source of income and to repay our loans. With potatoes remaining unsold, everything is at stake now.
The temporary auction yard set up at Chumi last month for potato growers has remained idle since the lockdown. However, a team is working to send 3 tugloads of potatoes from Pumthang to FCB in Gelifu soon. With additional information from Sangye Chezum, this is Kipchu, BBS News, Pumthang.
For many Bhutanese, death is a time of major religious significance both for the deceased and the survivor. It calls for a huge gathering to perform the rites. But today, with movement restrictions, 12 Red Cross volunteers are helping people with funeral requirements at the crematorium in Thimphu.
Under normal circumstances, many, more than a dozen mourners would have been present, tending and serving the families who lose loved ones. But today, these 6 taxi drivers, who are the members of the Red Cross Society, assist the bereaved families with funeral rites and manage dead bodies in lockdown.
We need to protect ourselves. We handle a minimum of 7 bodies and a maximum of 15 in a day. In times like this, lots of people gather here to mourn for the death, but then again, they have to follow protocols here. We only allow around 9 to 10 people from each family and only 3 vehicles are allowed.
The group helped 50 families in the last 2 weeks. The team wakes up as early as 5 in the morning, clean and disinfect the whole crematorium. They pitch tents as more bereaved families come to the cremation ground.
Unlike other days, bodies are kept in separate rooms and only allow 4 people in a tent or a room with the dead bodies. If there are more dead bodies, we pitch tents. His Majesty's Secretariat had provided free firewood for funerals.
Another group of 6 women taxi drivers manages the cremation ground. The group takes care of the registration at the entrance, controls the crowd and monitors proper physical distancing. Here at the gate, we check the vehicles, ask people to wash their hands and sanitize them. We also check the temperature of the people entering the crematorium. They have been stationed in crematorium since the nationwide lockdown on 11th August. When a call came in this afternoon, it was from the National Referral Hospital. The death has come to an old man. The team excused themselves and hurriedly hopped into a vehicle and heads to the hospital to help yet another family bid farewell to their loved one. Sangi Shizom for BBS News.
Well, that's all we have for this week. Do join us next week. Until then, please stay home, stay safe.